that you created here. I was a little confused today during your presentation of whether you created this visual or if it was something you found. I kind of got the sense that you created it. So I'll look at your visual, I'll make some comments, and then I'll take a look at your paper here and your rationale, and I'll give you some feedback on that as well. Okay, so first, just kind of looking at your visual overall, I do like how it's organized. You got it set out in blocks. That makes perfect sense, and I see the idea of the what, why, and how. But as it is right now, this is just a lot of blocks of text. So how can we kind of transform this into some sort of infographic? So think about ways to change font sizes, color, and things of that nature to really alter the way we look at this visual. So like for instance, you have the what, why, and how in colored blocks. It makes sense because that draws attention to it, but when we see what here, well, how is it referring to? So you got the lines dividing it. I mean, there's a good sense of organization, but there's really not a lot of visual appeal. I mean, what we're really looking at here is a lot of text. So the study of high school transcript shows that only about 44% of high school students take a separate course in economics. So what's important here is this this 40. Whoops, sorry, didn't mean to move that. Is this 44? So this is really, really, really important. So how can we change this? So text styles. Where's our font size? I'm not worried about the styles or anything. I want to talk about the size and see if there's a way we can make. So okay, so I think I see what you did is you made boxes and the text is going to stay locked within the size. Okay, so let's come together and let's look at this visual and see if there's a way we can have a little more freedom in this. As it is right now, you got this set up in a Word document, but let's go to View, Publishing Layout. You can't see the view, but this is under the View tab in the top, Publishing Layout. Okay. Let's just continue and see if it keeps all of our stuff. Okay, so now we have a little bit more freedom to where we can move things around and they're not locked into the lines. Okay. So this gives us a little bit more freedom, and let's just think of some ways that let's say if we move this out here, I'm just going to move it over to the side. We want to highlight 44% being an important number, so let's just go text and let's just put in a text box and let's just put 44%. But let's change this to change the size of it to be really large. We'll have to make this bigger. It's going to move some things around. Don't worry, I'm not like, I'm not going to save this, but I'm just going to give you for instance. So 44%. Being a number that's extremely important, and we could even change the color of this. Let's make it white, for instance, or we could even make it yellow. We can do a lot of things, but now look how much more prominent this statistic is. That's very important. And also, if this is economics, how can we tie in money to this somehow? So thinking about ways to incorporate visuals of dollar bills or money signs, things like that, things of that nature. So what I would encourage you to do is do some research and look for some infographics online on just Google image search and see how statistics and information is put together in a much more visually appealing way. So I like that you have the organization, the blocks are helpful. But the what, why, and how don't really line up in any particular way because the diagonal doesn't really help readers kind of get their cue in any sense. You have some important words and numbers that could be highlighted and given a lot more prominence. So do a Google search for infographics, typography infographics, see how text can be used in different ways. That was part of that exercise we did in the lab that one day to kind of get you to think about how you could alter text to really create visual dynamics and visual appeals. So as it is, let's think about how we can do that. And if you want to come in sometime to my office or even in lab someday, maybe we can brainstorm about how to kind of eliminate just chunks of text which are effective. You did chunking, you did clustering, that makes sense, but to create a much more visual argument as opposed to just really this is the textual argument as it is. Okay, all right, so my project this semester is advocating for the importance of economics at high school level learning. Since this is a very broad topic, I thought it would be in my best interest to create a visual for my campaign. Okay, that is a good point, especially since it's something that's not really gaining a lot of awareness. I found an article online earlier this semester that I believe correctly addressed why economics is essential and how we can fix the problem. Now, what do you mean by we and what is fix the problem? So this is kind of a little bit vague. In the end, my creation was a poster with facts or ideas taken from William Wallstead's article, Why It's Important to Understand Economics. Okay, so, and that is from the citation at the bottom. Okay, so you have sources, publications, why it's important. You might think about how you can cite this to be giving attribute to the actual author's name. So again, we'll talk about how we can kind of change the visuals. So diving right into the assignment, I knew I had to section the poster so that it was aesthetically pleasing, but I also wanted to inform the reader. In Compose Design Advocate, okay, so I've said this to a lot of people now. Let's not refer to the textbook, but let's refer to the author. So let's just say Wysocki and Lynch give an example of two similar layouts. However, the second is okay. So now, okay, so in readers are given an example of two similar layouts. What do you, two similar layouts of what? What do you mean? Two similar layouts of your poster? This needs a little bit more explanation, and let's refer to the authors and the page number, okay? However, the second design is much busier, which makes it harder for the readers to focus. What do you mean second design? If somebody reading this doesn't have your book and don't know a page number, how do they know what you mean by second design? Okay, does that make sense? The authors suggest that so again, authors, we can say Wysocki and Lynch suggest that audiences comprehend this. What do you mean by this? This is a little vague. What is this referring to? This makes comprehend this much easier because the layouts are straightforward and it does not require them to make much visual effort, or their eyes don't have to move around the page. Okay, this is really kind of just dragging on and not really kind of making much sense. I understand you're saying the eyes don't have to exert a lot of effort, but you're this is kind of a run-on that is just kind of keeps getting wordier. This poster is in 4 sections. Okay, are we talking about your poster now? So, whoops, wrong page. Are we talking about your poster? So we need to be really explicit. The importance of economics in high school, and 3 other sections. Why, what, and how. Okay, let's put the period inside the quotes. I believe this layout was easiest on the eyes and shouldn't be. So the comma being placed here means your second sentence, the second half of the sentence, could be its own independent clause. So we actually don't need this comma. I believe that this layout was easiest on the eyes and shouldn't be too confusing to the reader. Okay, that is true. You have a good layout. It's easy on the eyes, but in some sense, are we supposed to read the boxes from top to bottom or side to side? That's a little bit of the problem of how it's set up as it is. I'm just gonna maybe try and go back here and get to your original version. It might not let me. It will. Okay. So, like I said, are we supposed to what blocks are we supposed to read first? So the lines help, but I think there needs to be more visual cues. I first played around with orientation of the poster, finally deciding on portrait. Okay, I think it makes sense to have a portrait. I basically put all of my information in text boxes, so they were easy to place, and it was simple to change the details to place in it. That is true, but you have some inconsistency where you have some small text, some larger text, some smaller text. These boxes aren't the same size, so It's good structure as far as keeping things separated, but we need to have some consistency too. I formatted each box with a different size of font, but kept the type of font the same. Okay, so why is each box a different size? I guess that's kind of the question. What is the purpose of that? This is something to kind of think about. Why might you do that? Finally, I decided, let's see, the type of font the same as to not ruin the flow of the poster. Okay, it's okay to change font style though, because that kind of adds more visual dynamics to the poster. Finally, I decided I did not like the plain white background, but wanted to keep it simple to keep the reader focused on the most important part, the information. So this sounds more like, instead of you using design strategies from the textbook, but more or less like you just felt like it was boring, which isn't a very strong rationale. Okay, you want to give a specific reason why you changed the color and why you chose that color. Why didn't you choose red or yellow or black? Okay, so you have to think about why the colors you chose are important. And why the background color you chose is important. I chose a simple abstract of blue tones, but with a yellow light in the center as a sense of newness to evoke the feeling of learning something or being introduced to more knowledge. Okay, so this makes perfect sense and is a little bit more explicit and more refined as to just say, I felt like the background was plain. Okay, does that make sense? So this, good job here. This needs a little refinement. Overall, I was very impressed with how my project turned out. If it were to be distributed, I would hope it would be displayed in a school classroom or office, or could be even introduced to students who are interested in learning about economics. I feel as though economics is an important subject, and this poster outlines why it is essential for children around the world in an appropriate, simple manner. Okay, very true. All right, okay, so this should be works cited. Change that here, works cited. Okay, so your formatting is not proper MLA, so let's change this. We need single space. We need to have a hanging indent. Whoops. So move it all over, and then the top like that, and have a double space in between. Okay, so that's how you would format a works cited properly. Okay, this recurring header here doesn't need to, you only need that in the beginning, and then you just need the page number. And be sure to change this, so if you're going to use this style, you know, put your last name here. Okay, and then you won't need this other stuff. Okay, so instead of making this a header up at the top, this can just be a part of the body paper. Okay, all right, well, thanks, Morgan. And let's talk a little bit more about how we can make this poster image a lot more dynamic. Okay, thanks a lot.